can see the ivy growing through the wall.
This week, Jimmy sat down with singer, songwriter, and worship leader Kari Jobe.
The title track, The Garden, there's all this imagery with the greenery and things that are, I mean, it's a song of lament in some ways starting off, and then but it's got like this hopeful thread that sort of runs through
totally
the whole thing. But talk about that song specifically. I know you had a really cool story about right after your sister lost the baby and just,
You're talking about the title track?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so we had bought a house out in Franklin, which we actually don't even have anymore. It was kind of a crazy season, but it had a flower garden in the backyard, and I didn't know because it was winter when we bought it. And it was pretty insane how literally, physically, this season was shifting as, like, I felt like my heart was kind of shifting, coming out of, like, this winter death, that whole season of losing my niece and that heartache. But then Canyon was born right on the brink of spring coming. So I'm holding him one day a few weeks after he was born, and I noticed these flowers start blooming in my backyard. But the thing that hit me the most was that it was covered in ivy, and my niece's name, who is in heaven, is James Ivy.
Wow.
And so the fact, I remember the day like it was yesterday. I went outside, I was holding Canyon, I went outside and I stood in the middle of this garden as the wind began to blow, and it was almost like I could hear music in the sound of the leaves blowing and the flowers moving, and it just did something. I felt like my heart was waking up. The part that says to sweep away the ashes and wake me from my sleep. It's a spiritual picture of, I felt like I'd been in a season of just extreme sorrow where I felt asleep in a way. I felt like my heart was trying to go numb because of the pain. So it's just incredible imagery because that's exactly, I wanted to paint a picture of what was really happening. Wow. And then that faith is rising up like ivy. Ivy always grows towards light, but it's a picture of God's love, that he can reach through the harshest of situations and the hardest places to reach our hearts. He does it, and it's miraculous. And it's life. It's his life. So then the end, there's death and resurrection in every single seed. A seed has to die in the ground for it to bud life. And there was this spiritual thing of, we felt like we gave James Ivy to heaven as like a sowing of a seed. We don't all fully understand it, but I've seen a little bit of the fruit, being almost 2 years away from it now. And that God works in that. He always is faithful to his word, and he says everything is like a seed that's planted. And in due time, it'll bring forth life. And so what looks like death, God will turn it to look like life in the most miraculous way.
Wow.
And only he can do it, but he does it. In the middle of it, sometimes those phrases, God's going to turn this for your good, sometimes that phrase hurts because it feels insensitive.
Right.
But it's not. It's truth that your heart has to hear because it will happen. It just will, because he's good, and he'll always turn things for good because it's his character and his nature. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I remember the night of when you guys do that song on the tour, as we talked about, it's kind of woven into the theme of the night. And when you get halfway through and the song lifts, I just remember it was just such a kind of a chills, moment. And it was interesting because we were with you guys right after the album release. You guys were just touring the record, and like people were engaging. Like they probably had just heard the music maybe like a week before because the album had just released, and but to see the room kind of erupting and responding,
right,
to the song.
It's like a spiritual song. I think for some people they don't understand it. It's a lot of imagery, and it's like, I don't get this song. But if you know the story, you get it. And if you've ever walked through something difficult like that, you get it. So there's a lot of sniffles in the room, after that song, and a lot of emails.
I bet.
A lot from women who are like, I this song is unlocking something for me, and the more I listen to it, the more I feel like the Father is healing me.
Wow.
And I mean, that's my prayer in my life, is that I could write music that helps people pray and helps people not give up, and just to be seen. You know, if you're in the middle of something difficult, if you feel seen and your story is known, I think that gives you like a hope to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So.
Then I saw the garden. Hope had come to me to sweep away the ashes and wake me from my sleep.
You can listen to this full interview and all of our Worship Together podcast episodes on Apple Podcast and everywhere podcasts are found.